Hello, puzzle people. Let's get right into it and discuss the World Series. Go Jays. What? Not that World Series, but Canada. Jays. The Speed Puzzling World Series. The hell is that? Oh. Okay, well, I guess. Let's try this again. Hang on. Hello, puzzle people. Let's get straight into it and discuss the new event that's been creating a bit of a buzz in the speed puzzling world, and that is the newly announced, or at least hinted at, Speed Puzzling World Series. Go Jays. So what is it exactly? We have some information, but there is still lots of information that has yet to be released. I am recording this on November 1st, 2025, so there is definitely going to be more information that comes out, hopefully by the time this is posted on November 2nd, that more information hasn't come out. So just keep in mind, anything that's released after that day, we'll see how much it compares to what I say in this video. So what do we know at this time? Well, we know it is the Speed Puzzle World Series. We know the website to follow at this point in time, which is speedpuzzle.com. We'll come back to that in a bit. We know that it is going to be held in Munich, Germany, which I think a lot of people will be happy about, that it's in a new location. We also know that it is an individual-only competition for at least the 2026 version, which is interesting. And we know that it'll be made up of 6 events, and anyone who participates in the Speed Puzzle World Series will compete in all 6 events. There was not going to be an elimination system, and we'll talk about that in a bit as well. We also know, as of October 30th, one of the organizers, or the organizer, not quite sure, behind this event is Australian speed puzzler Melissa Townsend. She's attended the last few World Championships in Spain. She is part of the Aussie All-Stars team and is probably one of the more recognizable faces in the speed puzzling world. But what do we not know yet? And by the way, this is not a demand for information at all. It is just listing things that hopefully we get information for in the future, hopefully soon, because I think we're all excited about what this might be, but also that we have time, or not me personally, but people that may be considering going have time to prepare, if it's possible to prepare. We'll talk about that. And we're puzzlers. We like information. Based on other events and other competitions, the more we know, the better I think it is for everyone involved. So while we do know that it will take place in 2026, we do not know exactly when it will take place. You can make a guess. You have a 1 in 365 chance at it. Probably not going to be on New Year's Day, probably not on something like Christmas, but we'll see what those days potentially might be. We don't know the entry fee or the costs associated with participating in the event, and that could play a factor for some people, especially those not located in Europe. We also don't know how many participants will be allowed into this. We don't know if it's going to be an open competition where anyone can sign up. Will there be a qualification system in place? Will it determine kind of how you did at previous competitions or national rankings, or will there be a certain number per country? A lot of unknowns when it comes to the participation aspect. We don't know specific brands or sponsors of the event, which is fine. When I get to kind of my predictions a little bit later in the video, you'll see why I'm kind of happy that they haven't done this yet. We don't know which national organizations, if any, are associated with this event. When it comes to the World Championships, the national organizations like the Canadian Jigsaw Puzzle Association, the United States Jigsaw Puzzle Association, Australia, Germany, UK, Portugal, Spain, all share information with the World Champion, or the WJPF. We don't know if that's going to be the case for this. We don't know if it's going to be annual, or if it will change locations. This is probably something that will occur much further down the line. You need to do the first event first to know if you're going to be doing an annual event. If anyone ever says this is the first annual event, don't talk to that person. That's not a thing. You can't be the first annual if it's the first. Yeah, it's the first event. And most importantly, we do not know what these 6 events are. We do know that there will be 6 events, all individual based, and as I mentioned, if you are competing, you will compete in all 6 events. There is not a knockout system like they have at other puzzle competitions, so that's interesting, but we don't know what the 6 events are. And I'll address my predictions for this in a bit. Let's first look briefly at the timeline of events so far of the information that we are currently aware of. I'm sure there has been a lot of planning that's already gone into this. I can't imagine the logistics of trying to plan a international event like this, especially considering the main organizer, Melissa, is Australia based, but planning an event in Europe, that cannot be easy. I am not going to bother Melissa just yet, but if she does watches this, or someone who knows her watches this, if she would like to make an appearance on this channel and talk about this event as we get closer, I would love that. But again, not going to bother her right now. I'm sure she is super busy, but I'm just putting it out there. So on October 19th, I personally was made aware of this by people talking through various social media channels. Someone had stumbled across the website speedpuzzle.com, which is interesting because I've definitely typed that in before, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it had a countdown to October 25th or 26th, depending on what your time zone was. And it just said, I'll read what it says. It says, an exciting new international competition is coming to a new country in 2026. More details in, then there is the countdown. And that's all we had to go on. Nothing else on the website. We then had a choice to sign up for further information. There was a registration sign up button at the bottom. Straight away, there's lots of questions and actually a couple of red flags at this point. The first question is who is running this? Speedpuzzle.com never used to have anything on it. As I mentioned, I've typed it in before, mistakenly doing it because there's a website called speedpuzzling.com, which is a United States-based speed puzzling website run by Jonathan Clough that has a lot of virtual and in-person events listed on there. So I'm pretty sure someone came across this by accident, but there is a question there. My first thought is that maybe they're linked. It's a .com website. They tend to be somewhat more US based. I know it doesn't stand, .com is not strictly US based, but because there was already speedpuzzling.com there, I could see the link. As I thought about it more, it probably wasn't related. They would just use the website everyone's going to already. So that, I ignored that. But the red flag for me at this point was the lack of any specifics whatsoever. It was super generic. Not a lot on this website. It essentially looked more like a pop-up window that anyone could kind of design, and then the option to sign up for more information. Speed puzzling has exploded globally over the past few years, so we're always looking for new competitions. This could potentially just be a website that's been set up to gather information from people, some sort of scam type website. I don't believe it is at this point, but it could just be something that's just like a phishing site to get people's information, and a lot of people's information. So I probably shouldn't click this button and send some personal information, right? But we all ignore red flags, and I obviously clicked the sign up button to get more information, because what could possibly go wrong? And then I kind of forget about it until 5:34 a.m. I receive an email on October 25th, local time for me where I am in Canada. It's an odd time to send a scheduled email, 34. To be fair, I tend to do that as well, schedule emails for odd times like that so they don't look scheduled. If you're sending an email and someone receives it at 9 a.m. or 12 p.m., we know that it was scheduled. Mix it up a bit. Anyways, for those of us who willingly submitted some personal information into a unknown website run by an unknown person with very little information and a countdown clock on it, because that always turns out super well in TVs and movies when that situation comes up, we receive an email. So great. In this email, that is when we find out the event will be located in Germany. We know it's the World Series. It will be an individual competition, like I've already mentioned, featuring 6 events, different challenges in each event, no knockouts. Great. I think the fact that everyone competes in the 6 rounds is what's causing more people to be talking about this, especially because there are no pairs or teams. It needs to be worthwhile for people to go. So the fact that there's 6 events, it seems to be set up like an Olympic decathlon style. It's only 6 events, so I guess it's a hexathlon. We don't know the 6 events, but the word speed is used quite a bit in the email, so we can safely assume there's not going to be a jigsaw puzzle javelin event. At this stage, I'm still cautious about the whole thing because we know it is in Germany, or at least we've been told it is in Germany. A safe assumption would be that someone from Europe is running this. However, it could be someone from anywhere, and they just picked Germany because it's associated with the massive puzzle brand Ravensburger. But odds are it's probably someone in Europe. Somebody must know something. Over the next 24 hours, I did reach out to a few people who I know reside in Europe, part of the speed puzzle community, and no one is saying a specific names. There's guesses. Again, no one's naming anybody whatsoever because no one seems to be quite sure, at least of the people I spoke to. But there is a consistent level of suspicion and just wariness, I think, within the speed puzzle community as a whole. And I think the concern came from the fact that we still didn't know who the organizer or organizers or organization was that was overseeing this. And based on many of our experiences in previous events or with how certain organizations or organizers run things, you can tell why people might be a bit hesitant at this stage. And maybe it's still all not real. It could still just be someone trying to get a bunch of information from us. These are not the types of puzzles that people in the speed puzzling world are trying to figure out. Just get us to the jigsaw aspect. Then on October 30th, as I mentioned, we all received via email that the main organizer behind this, again, is Australian speed puzzler Melissa Townsend. So, okay, we have a name. It is not an unknown random person either. People know who this individual is. So green flag, maybe? This information was shared through an email that was sent out on that day, at least for me, at 4:29 a.m. So 29, see, keeping the random time up. I'm hoping they're scheduling it with those time numbers because I find that hilarious. Again, I do that. But if they're just typing up the email and sending it at that time as well, okay, you do you. The email was then clipped and shared to a bunch of social media, mainly Instagram, pages and stories, people saying, look, this is being run by a legitimate person. We know who this person is. Great. And sure, there were some big names as well sharing this clip from the email, but still one concern. However, there was no update to the website about this information. The Instagram page associated with this event also didn't have an update at the same time. That's fine. There's a lot going on, but my cautious level will stay slightly raised. Now, just to be clear, I am a naturally suspicious-y type kind of person. I like to have information. If I'm missing information, I'm going to be more cautious. I fully believe that this is a proper event. I really hope it's a proper event because I know there's a lot of people very excited about it. And as more information comes out, I'm sure my concerns and other people's concerns will be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's the first event. It's the first time. First day. So that is what we know so far. So let's move on to my way too early predictions on what I think the 6 events will be. I'm going to predict more than 6 events here because it's so early and there's so many possibilities. The World Series is our oyster, so I'll list, I think, 10 or 11 probably on here. Yeah, why not? I really hope the announcement for the events doesn't come up before this is posted. At the time of the recording, like I said, November 1st, nothing yet. I plan on having this up by November 2nd. So unless it's a busy weekend, we should be fine. maybe who's ever sending out the information can wait a week or two. Let me get some views up on this and some comments. That'd be nice. Thanks. And if there is an announcement, just let me know in the comments below how dumb I am, because I'll probably get most of this wrong. If the announcement hasn't been posted, please leave a comment below on what you think might be included in the World Series event. Yeah, the more creative, the better. Let's get some ideas out here. Before we go into the actual events, I'm going to propose my preferred scoring system, or a scoring system that I would like to see, considering there needs to be a system in place for how you're going to count the points before you can start considering potential events. Because if the event doesn't match how you can keep score, then it wouldn't be included in the final 6. So I believe that we could see a cross-country style point system. It's rare to see it, but as I go through, I'll go through the reasons why. Essentially with cross-country scoring, the lower the score, the better. You could say golf as well, but I don't foresee a negative point system in here. Cross-country, the lowest score you can have is 1, and golf, you can obviously go below that. So I'm going to stick with the cross-country scoring system. I also chose the cross-country scoring system because it can lead into pairs and teams in the future. If that's incorporated into the World Series. If you're not familiar with the cross-country style, essentially in a cross-country race, if you finish in first place, you get 1 point. If you finish in 5th place, you get 5 points. So the goal is to get as few points as possible. Now, this doesn't really matter when it comes to individuals, because first is first, so that's irrelevant. If you're doing multiple events over a large time period, you can start counting scores, multiple scores, and the lower the score, the better. But when it comes to teams, if you have, usually it's the top 4 finishers on each team. You might have 10 people on the team, but it's the top 4 scores. Usually that counts, sometimes 5, but so essentially if you have a team that finishes, they have runners that finish in 1st, 2nd, 10th, and 18th, you're going to have a team score of 31. While if you have another team that finishes in, say, 3rd, 6th, 7th, and 12th, they would have a cumulative score of 28. So overall, even though they didn't have the 1st and 2nd place person, that second team I mentioned finishes with a lower score, meaning they would win over the other team. So you can have individuals win on a team, but when it comes to the team overall, the whole score matters, right? That makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. This also helps in the individual rounds as well, because you might do well in 1 or 2 events and keep your score low, but one event might be really tough and drop you down a few places. Something else that was mentioned in the email is consistency is key. So by having a low scoring, where the low score matters, it's easier to keep track of overall consistency. Now you can do a top score. Say there's 100 participants. First place, you get 100 points and work your way backwards. But the problem here is that you may run into situations where people drop out, or they're unavailable. They're not able to attend some of the events. It can get confusing with what counts as there can be a lot more involved when you're doing high scores at the end. So the lower the score is, the easier this is all to keep track of. First place, 1 point, done. It makes the easiest amount of sense. What I really hope doesn't happen is that it's a Tour de France type of situation where cumulative time is how this is scored. You could have some people that pull really far away, really far ahead in the early events, and we see this all the time with bike races, Tour de France as my example, where the last event, the last 2, the last 3 events really don't matter. We also see this in large scoring events as well, where you get more points the higher you finish. So F1 racing, for instance, if you follow F1, how many years have we had it where the driver is so far ahead with 3, 4, 5 races to go? Why even watch? So again, a low scoring system where it's point based, can alleviate some of these issues. So let's get into the events. These are purely based on my own thoughts, as well as my own experiences or what I've heard that have taken place at other competitions, small and large. I have absolutely no insider information when it comes to these events. Purely my own opinion. Starting off with event prediction number 1, your standard 500-piece Ravensburger puzzle. We are in Germany. I would highly expect Ravensburger to potentially make an appearance. One issue might be, though, is that Ravensburger won't be associated with it because it's so heavily involved with the World Championships. And this is now essentially a competing competition. So depending on how sponsorship deals and stuff have worked, who knows if that's even a possibility. But starting off with the easiest one, yes, the Ravensburger 500-piece puzzle. Everyone gets the same one. Whoever finishes first, that's your top point getter at that point. So not super exciting. As fair as you can get, I guess, and easy to score. Likeliness of it, probably pretty high, but they might be looking in different directions, so we'll see. Event prediction number 2, again, we're going to stick with the standard 500-piece puzzle, this time from the brand Trefl. I can see Trefl being all over this type of competition, especially with their association with the European Championships earlier this year. So I can definitely see that that brand making an appearance, providing a puzzle for it. Again, not super exciting, just we've seen it already, obviously at the European Championships and other competitions as well. So again, scoring is easy. There's a clear winner. It is what it is. Event prediction number 3. Let's bump this up a little bit, and individual 1,000-piece puzzles. This is where stamina would come into play. How many speed puzzlers, including some of the top speed puzzlers, do solo 1,000-piece puzzles for speed and on a regular basis? They might do it every so often, but how often are they doing it consistently? Because again, there's that stamina factor to consider. And depending on the difficulty of the puzzle, we could have... It could be as short as an hour to 90 minutes, and it could be as long as 2.5 to 3 hours. So this might be an all afternoon or an evening event where it takes place over a longer period of time. I could definitely see it happening. I don't think I'm the only one, as I've started to see a few more 1,000-piece speed puzzles pop up recently where people are trying to go for faster times. I don't know. We'll see. And with the 1,000-piece, you can still put a time limit on it. Scoring is still simple. You can have a 2-hour limit or a 2.5 hour, 3 hour, whatever it might be. And if they don't finish, it just goes to a standard piece count of whatever's remaining is their positioning, just like we see at the World Championships and every other puzzle competition. Event prediction number 4. This would be a wooden puzzle round. These can be incredibly tough, even though piece counts tend to be somewhat low, where it could just be around 200 pieces. There's a big challenge in there, and they can take a long time to complete. They're always extremely random cut, more so than any other regular flat puzzle. The whimsy pieces are always fun as well. The likelihood of this happening, though, relies on how much this event is going to cost. If you have a sponsor that's willing to give wooden puzzles, then you're fine. If you're going to be purchasing wooden puzzles and then having people complete them, the cost of the event is going to go up really quickly because wooden puzzles are expensive, even the small ones. There's a lot that goes into making them. I get it. So depending on if you can get the sponsor that will donate or contribute a lot of puzzles, that will determine what the likelihood of a wooden puzzle event happening. Event prediction number 5, that is 3D puzzles. There's small 3D puzzles out there. I think there's been at least one competition. I'm not going to say specifically what it is because I could be wrong. I think I might be wrong. Where they did have a 3D puzzle event there and speed puzzle event. So it is possible. There are small 3D puzzles, again, making it possible for this to happen. The cost issue is similar to the wooden puzzles, not quite as extreme, but still something to consider. The other downside of 3D puzzles is taking them apart when you first open them. If you've ever done a 3D puzzle, they're usually in some sort of foam grid, and you need to push everything out of the grid first and then make sure you haven't missed anything. It can be tricky, but if we know in advance, it's something that you can practice. Event prediction number 6. I really like this one. This is completing the most 100-piece puzzles in a given period of time. So like we have people are familiar with the 100-piece or 99-piece Ravensburger moment puzzles. That's just one example. A lot of brands have 100-piece puzzles that we could choose from. But what I do like about this is that you just keep completing puzzles within the time frame. So there is no way to know how you're doing compared to everyone else, or at least beyond the tables around you. At the recent World Championships, there was the world record attempt where everyone was given 48-piece sections of the larger puzzle. And personally, I did compete with some people around me to see how many of these 48-piece sections we could finish within the time that we had before they ran out. So there is a competition aspect that can go into this. But if you don't know what else is going on in the room, and there's no one to announce that they are done like we see at most competitions, you just have to keep going and just hope you're doing your absolute best. In addition to this, you could have multiple brands as well. They don't have to be all from the same company. You could have everything laid out on the tables in bags numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The difficult part here would be how many puzzles within, let's say, half an hour. Is 600-piece puzzles enough? Is 8, 10? What? What is probably going to be enough for the top people not to run out? But with this, everyone does the same puzzles in the same order. You don't know what brand is coming up next because it's sealed inside of the bag. Again, each bag is numbered, so you're not relying on spotters running over to you to give you your next puzzle. That would make it way too complicated, but it could be fun. The scoring for this would just be the number of puzzles that you completed, plus however many other pieces you have put together, and we'll stick with the groups of 3 rule that most places tend to have. I know some have moved to 2 pieces together. No, I don't like that. 3 pieces together or more, there's your score. Easy. Event prediction number 7, and this would be a puzzle with a unique feature to it. By that I mean a puzzle that doesn't have borders, or a crypt style puzzle, or extra pieces have been included into the puzzle that aren't needed to throw people off. It's just something that requires additional thought and extra strategy that goes into it. What I don't want to see are puzzles that once they're put together, they provide clues in solving a non-jigsaw puzzle related puzzle. I'm not a fan of those in this type of scenario. This is a jigsaw puzzle championship, like the Ravensburger puzzle behind me here. There's additional puzzles to solve once you have put together that one. They're not easy at all, but no, let's just stick with the jigsaw puzzles where there's some sort of unique attribute that just makes it a little bit more challenging or something that we're not expecting. Event prediction number 9, and that is micro puzzles. So these types of puzzles here. While these are only 150 pieces, and there's various brands that make them, it does require a different skill set. These would be fun to see, but from a filming perspective, it would be an absolute nightmare for who's ever attempting to do that. It's not a lot of pieces, and it's in a very small area. The quality for some of these brands is not ideal. There tends to be a lot more false fits, which we don't want to see at a championship or a World Series type of event. If there's a high quality micro puzzle type brand out there, great, bring them in, and then the people filming can just they can figure it out. Event prediction number 10. Pick your own puzzle. I believe something like this was used at a competition in China. I'm not 100% sure of this. I could be wrong. But essentially, you are given the choice of, we'll say 3 puzzles ranging in difficulty, and you're given points depending on which puzzle you complete. The tougher puzzle earns you more points. In my scoring system, it would obviously earn you less points. And it's up to you to decide what is the best approach for you. So let's go through an example for this, for the World Series. If, to make this relatable, we'll choose 3 somewhat well-known puzzles. We'll go with New York Postcard, Excalibur Forest, and Sloth Selfies. The progression of difficulty here is obvious, or at least it should be. And now you can pick any of the 3 to complete, but your score will only be compared to others who also picked your puzzle. Because of the range of difficulties, each puzzle will be given a base starting score. So let's say if you pick the toughest one, which is Sloth Selfie, your base starting score would be, say, 0. Excalibur Forest, which is the middle difficulty, would have a base starting score of, let's say, 5. And New York Postcard, which is the easiest of the 3, would have a base starting score of 10. So if you picked Sloth Selfie and you were the first person to finish Sloth Selfie, that's tough to say a lot of times, your score would be 0 as your base starting score plus 1, so your final overall total would be 1. Remember, the lower the score, the better. If you were to pick New York Postcard and you finish first, your score would be 10, because that's the base starting score for the difficulty level, plus 1, so your overall points would be 11. As a reminder, you want the lowest score possible according to my proposed scoring system. Now, you must pick the puzzle on your own. There's no discussion or anything with the people around you. You can't kind of peek to see what people are choosing. There's a level of strategy that comes into place here. So New York Postcard, sure, it is by far the easiest, and you might have a great time on it, but so do a lot of other people. So you may pick the one that you know that you'll go through really quickly, but you may finish 20th. And if you finish 20th plus the 10 points for the base difficulty score, that's 30 points that you potentially would earn in this round. Not ideal, depending on what your goals are. When instead you could have picked the most challenging puzzle, Sloth Selfie, been the only one to pick it, as we saw at the World Championships, only one pair picked it in their round. You could finish first and walk away with 1 point, or you could even finish 10th in that round. If there's only 10 people that picked it, you're still walking with 10 points. You could finish in 25th for that and walk away with 25 points, beating the person who got 20th in the New York Postcard round. Again, strategy is involved here. So you might pick the Sloth Selfie and go, yes, I'm going to pick this one. I know it's going to be more difficult, but I can probably finish higher because less people will pick it. However, what if everyone is thinking that? And then suddenly the majority of people pick Sloth Selfie and there's only 10 people that pick New York Postcards. Suddenly things are all mixed up with that. So people could split the difference and go with Excalibur Forest, and you have a vast majority of people in the middle. Strategy and gameplay come into effect here. Now, this option is highly unlikely because I can see a lot of people complaining about this where non-puzzling factors are now coming into play, and I know that is a concern for a lot of speed puzzlers, including myself. However, if this type of event was announced in advance, you can prepare for this in some sort of way and kind of try to figure out what the best method would be. It would also force people to practice the tough puzzles, and start and really work on different type of techniques to get through a puzzle like Sloth Selfie, where it's a ton of fur on there. So who knows? This could also be a round where puzzles are announced in advance, and as long as they're accessible globally for everyone to practice, there shouldn't really be an issue. But again, so say New York Postcard is one of the puzzles that was announced, you might be able to practice it 100 times or 200 times and really get that time down, but so can everyone else. So how are you going to split your practice time. Again, extra strategy that comes into play. Not every event can be based purely on how fast you can put a puzzle together, because then it's just going to be 6 rounds of here's 500-piece puzzles. Great. Who was the fastest overall after 6? Exciting. And event prediction number 11, completing 2 500-piece puzzles that are completely different. This concept is partially taken from the team's final of the European Championships. So for the first part of this scenario, the 2 puzzles need to be wildly different. And this is something that I know speed puzzlers do think about fairly often when it was for the World Championships, and we knew there's going to be the 2 puzzle options for the individuals and for the pairs qualifiers. There was thoughts that it would just be 2 very different puzzles, so appealing to a wider range of competitors. And what I mean wildly different, it's if one has flowers, the other one doesn't. I know that's not wildly different, but there's a difference there. Let's just not have flowers at all, but that's a point for a different day. Wildly different. So what do I mean by that? So if one is an illustration like the Kawaii Chaos from the recent World Championships, and another one is a landscape like Scandinavian Idyll, those are very, very different puzzles. You may be very good at the illustrative aspect of puzzles, the busyness that goes into it, the colors that jump out. That could be something that you're very, very good at. And you may pull ahead in this round, and you finish that first one going, nailing this, great. But then you open the second one, and you see a pure landscape like Scandinavian Idyll. And that is not your forte. And while you were ahead, you fall back, people catch up to you, whatever that might be. This does appeal to, again, multiple types of puzzlers. But you can also add on to this. It's not just about the images. You can have 2 very different brands. One of the puzzles could be random cut, while the other one is your standard ribbon cut. There's a lot of ways you can make these 2 puzzles very different from each other, and I don't know. I can see this being, it being an exciting round because of the differences in puzzles. Nothing's guaranteed. You might be really far ahead, like I said, and then for me, if a random cut shows up, well, I'm done. That's just pack it up and I'll just go home. But the aspect that comes from the European Championships is that you do not know what the second puzzle is until you get to it. It's hidden for everyone. Starts with the same puzzle, so you do not know what to expect. You do not know what's going to come out of that bag second. So you just need to focus on what's in front of you. There's no... unlike other championships where there's 2 puzzles in the same round and they give them both to you, you strategize which one can you do first and maybe pull out a big lead at the start, or while we have more energy, we'll do the tougher one and get through that one. It takes away that aspect of it. Everyone does them in the same order, but you don't know what that second puzzle is, keeping that mystery going. So those are 11 proposed events that I could see any of them taking place at a World Series scenario. What I really hope, as I've already mentioned, is that it's not just 6 rounds of 500-piece puzzles. It could be 6 different brands. Fine, I guess that's something, but unless there's some sort of unique aspect to it, I don't know if it's going to be as exciting to watch. Like on the live streams, it's okay, we have a Ravensburger, now we have a Trefl, now we have a Cobble Hill. It's like, okay, but let's add some more interesting stuff into it. If we go back to, like I said, it's similar to the decathlon situation at the Olympics. If it was just, we're going to do a 100-meter race, and then a 200-meter race, then a 400-meter race, then an 800-meter, it's all running, all 10 events. It's okay, but nothing else. Like we can't throw something, we can't jump over or something. Just have some sort of unique aspect to at least one of the rounds, but the more the better. There are 2 other events that I considered including. I'll mention them now just in case they do get included in the final 6. I'll seem like I'm smarter than I am, but I don't think that these ones will show up. The first event is Puzzle Chicken, or as we refer to it in Canada, Chicken Poulet. If you haven't heard of it, the basics are available online. I don't want to waste time going through all of it. Essentially, you're just trying to figure out predict the time that you're going to finish a puzzle and make sure that your time is faster than other people's, and you're just kind of bouncing times off each other. I'll finish in 44 minutes or 43 minutes, and someone else says 42, so you say 41, and then you say 40, and then you just keep going back and forth until you have to finish the puzzle in whatever time you say. And what I like about this, if it were to show up, is that if you don't finish in time, it's a disqualification, essentially. So this makes it tough for my scoring system, because you can't give 0 points, because that's very, very low. There could be a maximum point, so however many participants there are in that round. If you're disqualified, everyone who's disqualified gets whatever the maximum points are. It could make things very interesting in the standings, especially with some of those top puzzlers who they know themselves, but if you're off by even a second, and you're just putting the last piece in and you don't finish, oh well, big point penalty. So you could see some interesting results from it. I don't think it would happen. The logistics of it, I think, are the toughest bit. I can't see how you would do it, but again, it's going to depend on how many people are participating in this. The other event I considered was a puzzle chess tournament. Now, I didn't include this initially because the information we do know about the World Series is that there's no eliminations, no knockout rounds. However, it's not clear if you can't be knocked out during a round. So everyone may start, but not everyone finishes, Squid Game style. So there is a way that puzzle chess could work as an event. The main issue is setting up the matchups. There would need to be some sort of seeding process involved. You don't want a scenario where just by random chance you have Veronica and Victor paired up with each other in round 1 of the puzzle chess tournament. I'm only using them as an example because they finished first and second respectively in the World Championships. I have no information on if they are planning to attend or if they're involved in any way. Purely an example. But you wouldn't want to knock out the potential favorites, whatever country they may be from or whoever they may be, in the first round. That's not how it's supposed to work. If we're looking at tennis, you never have the first seed and the second seed facing off each other in the first round. That would be a crazy way to start off the tournament. You want to see the fastest people at the end. The only way I could see this working is to have the event later on in the World Series. So you take your total points from rounds, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds, and use them to do your seedings. Puzzle chess would be interesting to have because speed is the priority, but it does take into other skill sets and strategies. There's a high potential for a massive upset in a speed puzzle round. As I talk about it more, I could see this being included in the actual World Series. So let's add it on to event prediction number 12 officially. And just briefly, let's just bring up a few things I definitely don't want to see in addition to the 6 rounds of just 500-piece puzzles. Thing to avoid, number 1, a 2025 World Championship style where you are given 2 puzzles, you have to pick one of them to complete, but your time is compared to everyone regardless of the puzzle they finished. Seen it, done it, we don't want to have it again. Things to avoid, competitors don't know in advance whether or not the boxes will be cut. Enough said. Thing to avoid, number 3, puzzles we've seen at other competitions regardless of brand. Thing to avoid, number 4, revealing the brands in advance. Ideally, I would love for them or one to be kept secret. From a marketing point of view, it's almost impossible to get any major sponsors to agree to something like this. They want people going out and buying their products to practice in advance. The only way to do this would be if there was no sponsor and all puzzles were bought individually. But the cost for the event would be astronomical if you did that. Unless you're only having 20 people compete, even then, the cost will be huge. So unlikely that is a very ideal scenario. A surprise sponsor, maybe at one point, that would be fun for one of the rounds, where you do get one brand to agree to secrecy. But again, unlikely that that happens purely from a marketing point of view. Thing to avoid, number 5, everything being from one single brand. It's a World Series. It should represent products from all over the world. And finally, thing to avoid at number 6, any prizes that require a cargo plane to take them home. Considering there is an Australian that is running this, and knowing what some Australians received as prizes at the World Championships and other competitions, I don't think this will be an issue. At the end of the day, I really hope this comes together. I don't even know if I would be able to attend, but for those who do, I really hope that it runs smoothly. And if this results in changes to the World Championships as well, even better. This World Series inaugural event could be a massive turning point in the speed puzzle world, and I think we're all hoping that it turns it in the right direction. That is it for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about this new international event. Once more information comes out, I will certainly be doing some updated videos as we learn more. I'm very excited about this. I can't wait to see how it all turns out, especially what the events are. That's what I'm most interested in, even if I can't be there. But best of luck to Melissa and anyone else who is part of the organization of this event. And as I said, open invitation to anyone who wants to make an appearance on this channel to discuss the World Series. Remember to click like if you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment below with your suggestions to what you'd like to see at the World Series. Make sure to subscribe so you stay up to date with the content on this channel and my thoughts and other people's thoughts about what is going on in the speed puzzling world. You can also follow me on Instagram at @CanadamPuzzle, same as this channel. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy puzzling, and go Jays go. Bye.